I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games. A minus 31 free throw discrepancy. And I might be able to understand it if we were just chucking threes, but we're not. We're attacking the rim. And the disrespect right now for our team has been pretty unbelievable. So it's disappointing.
What if the biggest basketball series of the year wasn't a competition, but a crime scene playing out on live television? The Indiana Fever and Las Vegas Aces weren't just playing basketball, they were actors in a drama where the ending felt predetermined. This story isn't about who scored more points, it's about how one team was systematically dismantled by the very people meant to ensure a fair game, leading their coach to risk it all by demanding a full-blown investigation into the league she works for.
Disappointing, that it doesn't go both ways, or it hasn't gone both ways. But we also can't allow that to consume us, right? Like, we've got to be able to play through that. We've got to be able to control the things that we can control.
But let's be clear, this controversy didn't appear out of thin air. It's the ugly culmination of a problem that has been festering within the WNBA for years. Fans have long complained about inconsistent officiating, phantom calls, and a clear bias toward established stars and legacy teams. For years, these complaints were dismissed as the sour grapes of losing fan bases. But with the arrival of Caitlin Clark and the unprecedented national spotlight on the Indiana Fever, the league's dirty little secret was suddenly exposed to millions of new viewers. This wasn't just one bad series, it was a symptom of a sickness that threatens to undermine the league's credibility at the peak of its popularity.
Steph, why don't you think you were able to find any flow, and when that was the case, what are you trying to do to jumpstart things, maybe on the defense?
Well, it's hard for us to find flow when there's a foul call every 10 seconds. I mean, it just really is. And when they're at the free throw line, we can't get up and down the floor. And that's a challenge. They were much more aggressive and physical defensively. We didn't counter that with our off-ball actions or with our back cuts. So they took us out of our comfort zone. I mean, offense is about rhythm, it's about timing, it's about spacing. We allowed them to do that, and they kept us from doing it.
The warning signs were there long before the final buzzer. Game 2 was where the script was revealed. The Indiana Fever's identity is built on tough, physical defense, but the referees decided that brand of basketball was suddenly illegal. Every box out was a foul, every bump was a whistle. Meanwhile, the Las Vegas Aces were allowed to play by an entirely different set of rules. They threw elbows, initiated contact, and played with an aggression that would have seen any Fever player benched with foul trouble in the first quarter. This wasn't a fluke, it was a clear message being sent from the officials to Indiana. You are not allowed to win.
A'ja Wilson is 1 for 12 as a foul is called on Boston, and that will be number 2 on Aaliyah Boston.
You saw Indiana picking up full court pressure defensively, and if you're Aaliyah Boston, that's the one spot on the floor you do not want to get a foul call.
And Stephanie White is trying to challenge it and did not call the timeout in time. Bray in the corner.
But it was in Game 3 that the agenda became undeniable. In the third quarter, with the Fever fighting for their lives, Aaliyah Boston was hit with a questionable foul call. Stephanie White immediately signaled for a coach's challenge, a right every team has. The bench was ready, the fans held their breath, but the officials just ignored her. They refused to even acknowledge the request, turning their backs as if she didn't exist. Seconds later, a three-pointer from the Aces ripped the momentum away from Indiana, a shift that felt stolen, not earned.
2-minute recap from last night. So A'ja Wilson pushes Howard in the back. Howard pushes her in the back. It's a foul on Howard. Look at this. Aaliyah Boston gets totally fouled by Nalissa Smith. Like, it's obvious, but no call. And then A'ja Wilson gets the call for not half as much. And then Nalissa Smith gets the call for not even getting touched. Here's a replay just to prove it to you. Yep, didn't get touched.
That single moment of defiance from the officials sent shockwaves across the internet. Fans, armed with screen recordings and slow-motion replays, became digital detectives. Within minutes, social media was flooded with clips exposing what the broadcast commentators wouldn't say. They showed a disturbing pattern of missed calls, blatant travels by the Aces, illegal screens that took out Fever defenders, and theatrical flops that were rewarded with free throws. It was no longer a question of incompetence. The evidence pointed to something far more sinister.
All getting called for the foul.
I thought it was egregious, honestly. I mean, I thought it was obvious. I felt like AB got one, had one going to the rim. They're in rotation. And then Lexi's, I felt like equally, we talk about, coming into the path, and it was an offensive player veering into the defensive players.
What the viral clips exposed was an unseen level of violence the Aces were getting away with. Ojal Wilson, the league's MVP, was seen bulldozing through defenders with her shoulder lowered like an NFL fullback, yet the whistle remained silent. Indiana's players were tossed to the floor on rebound attempts with no call. But if a Fever player so much as brushed an opponent's jersey, the whistle shrieked like a car alarm. The game had devolved into a farce, where one team played basketball and the other played by prison rules with the refs acting as their protectors.
See, you have drawn the most offensive foul in the W this year, including the playoff. How are you able to do that?
I'm just trying to defend as hard as I can, and there's only certain screens you're allowed to set, so just trying to trail them, and that's all I can really say.
This created two completely different sets of rules on the same court. The Aces were allowed to throw their weight around, but the Fever were penalized for breathing too close to an opponent. That double standard wasn't subtle. It was screaming at anyone paying attention. The physicality Indiana used to win Game 1 was magically transformed into foul trouble whenever it suited the referees. It reached a point of absurdity where a Fever player hustling for a loose ball would get tagged with a foul, while an Aces player could commit what looked like armed robbery under the basket and play would just go on.
Boston has the mismatch on Lloyd. Help comes. Kick out. Hull will fire. And hit from three. Last two positions inside from Indiana. Smith tied up by Hull. And a jump ball between Smith.
This forces you to ask the most damning question of all. Was this just historic incompetence, or was it a deliberate agenda? Is it possible that three professional referees could all coincidentally make game-altering mistakes that exclusively benefited one team? Or was there an unspoken directive to protect the league's defending champions and ensure the marquee team advanced? When the bias is this consistent and this blatant, it stops feeling like human error and starts looking like a coordinated effort to control the outcome, turning a competition of athletes into a puppet show directed by whistles.
On the left side of the floor, just a clear out, letting Jackie Young go to work.
Jackie Young with 17 points. Boston to the corner. Hull, catch, fire, and hit. Correct call. Evans dishes. Ray whips a pass inside. What a denial from Lexi Hull.
The Hull able to save the play.
12-point game, a little under 2.5 to go. Hull hits Indiana's first field goal of the quarter.
Just when it seemed like the corruption would swallow the Fever whole, a warrior emerged from the wreckage. Lexi Hull wasn't even supposed to be a major factor. She was playing with a painful back injury from Game 1, an ailment that had her listed as questionable for every game since. During warm-ups, she looked stiff and uncertain, but with her team on the brink of collapse, she didn't just play, she became the living embodiment of Indiana's defiance.
Back to Hull, wide open three is good.
The floor that she wants, doesn't it?
It does. Mitchell, connect. Here's Mitchell. Mitchell, one more. You bet.
Her performance was nothing short of legendary. 16 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 blocks, and a steal. She drained 3 massive three-pointers, each one feeling like an act of rebellion that silenced the biased whistles, if only for a moment. Those threes tied a Fever playoff record, a stunning achievement for a player who could barely bend over without wincing. This wasn't just a good game, it was a masterpiece, painted on a canvas of chaos and injustice.
Offensive foul, practically a football check, and the Aces score. So now the Aces cut it to 2, and then A'ja Wilson sets an illegal screen and they tied things up, and then Lexi Hull gets called for a foul for doing nothing when they just had 2 illegal screens they didn't call. All right, so this is fair. Same thing happens on the other side, but they don't call a foul for Kelsey Mitchell. So Leah Boston gets called for this foul for getting her arm grabbed, but Stephanie White can't challenge. They won't let her. That's the second time this game they didn't let her have her challenge. And then A'ja Wilson starts acting like a big baby.
Picture this. But the stats don't tell the whole story. It was the way she earned every single point that left fans in awe. Every possession was a battle. Cameras caught her grimacing in pain after diving on the floor for a loose ball, only to see her get back up and fight for a rebound against players bigger and healthier than her. She sacrificed her injured body over and over, injecting pure adrenaline into her team every time the officiating tried to bleed them dry. This was grit against gifts, heart against a stacked deck.
And then here we go. She gets a foul call with a 3-point game for, I don't know why they called that foul, but it's the third quarter and they want them to win. So here we go. Ace is up by 3. They call another foul for A'ja Wilson that isn't a foul. All right, so then they call another foul on the Fever that isn't a foul. And then to end the game after it's out of control because the Fever had a 6-point lead, but they kept calling fouls, another foul for A'ja Wilson that's not a foul. Ball don't lie, A'ja. Missed 11 shots in a row during this game.
And that is the ultimate tragedy of this series. On a night where Lexi Hull put on the grittiest, most courageous performance of her career, the conversation wasn't about her. It was about the referees. The spotlight that should have been celebrating her incredible heart was stolen by controversy. Her story became a perfect metaphor for the Fever themselves, underdogs with immeasurable fight, constantly pushed aside by a system that seemed determined to see them fail.
2 as well.
Here's Hull. Working behind Boston. Boston was open. Great fake. And Boston lays it in.
While Hull was playing out of her mind, the supposed best player on the court, A'ja Wilson, had completely vanished. The MVP started Game 3 an abysmal 1 for 11 from the field. She ended the game with just 13 points on a staggering 20 shots. This wasn't just an off night, this was a complete shutdown. Visibly rattled by Aaliyah Boston's suffocating defense, Wilson was forced into bad shots all night, proving that without a whistle in her favor, she was entirely beatable.
I thought she got hit a lot tonight. To shoot 1 free throw in 38 minutes. I know they told me not to say anything, but I can't.
The situation became truly insulting in the post-game press conference. Despite the fact that the Aces had been living at the free throw line all series, their coach, Becky Hammon, had the audacity to complain that A'ja Wilson only shot 1 free throw in 38 minutes. The irony was staggering. Her star player had been a non-factor, completely neutralized by Indiana's defense. Yet the narrative they pushed was that she was the one being victimized. Crying about not getting more whistles when your team is already swimming in them isn't just laughable. It's a slap in the face to the team that was being officiated off the court.
A minus 31 free throw discrepancy. And I might be able to understand it if we were just chucking threes, but we're not. We're attacking the rim. And the disrespect right now for our team has been pretty unbelievable. So it's disappointing.
But in a league that protects its stars, an MVP can't be seen as a failure. The narrative machine immediately kicked into overdrive to cover up her collapse. Commentators praised her all-around impact and veteran presence. Analysts quickly pivoted to praising the Aces' team depth for the win. What they refused to say was the simple truth. Aaliyah Boston had dominated the MVP, but giving Boston that credit would have meant admitting the Fever's game plan worked, and that the only thing that saved the Aces was everything else tilting in their favor.
Here's Boston, back to Hull. Sets herself up. Mitchell is free, laying it in. Been a while since Mitchell has gotten a shot attempt. Mitchell will get one here. It's hit.
Perhaps the greatest crime of this series was the blatant betrayal of the fans. Millions of new viewers, drawn in by the Caitlin Clark effect, tuned in to watch what they hoped would be a thrilling, competitive playoff series. Instead, they were treated to a masterclass in how to rig a game. This wasn't the product the WNBA had been selling. It was a bait and switch. The league spent months celebrating its newfound popularity, only to show its new audience that fairness and integrity are secondary to protecting the establishment. This fiasco didn't just hurt the Fever, it damaged the trust of the very fans the league needs to survive. This officiating circus was the final straw for Stephanie White. In her post-game press conference, she didn't hold back. With a look of controlled fury, she did what few coaches have the courage to do. She called for a full-scale, league-wide investigation into the state of WNBA officiating, declaring that its inconsistency was compromising the very integrity of the sport. She wasn't just angry about one game, she was speaking for every player and fan who felt robbed. Stephanie White's demand has now put the entire WNBA on trial. The commissioner, Kathy Engelbert, can no longer stay silent. The league is riding a massive wave of popularity, thanks in large part to the Indiana Fever, yet it appears content to let its officials potentially rig games to protect the defending champions. White has drawn a line in the sand. Now the league must choose, either conduct a real investigation and expose its own dirty secrets, or ignore the call and prove to millions of new fans that the game is nothing more than a fixed spectacle. Let us know down in the comments below if you think the WNBA will clean up this mess. Like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on the screen and we will see you in the next one.